Hello friends and welcome back to the Formula 4 Spanish Championship. It is time to go back in action. We didn't have to wait so much this time around. And as you can see, we are right now in the back space of the Motorland Aragon paddock. To my right, the garage. To my left, the teams are well placed and well located as they prepare for a fantastic weekend. Of course, by the time we are hearing this, we are preparing for the first of the 3 races of the weekend. But before we think about what's coming next, which is going to be very hot, and not just for the obvious weather, but because of the action that's awaiting us, we could look back into what happened in Portimao. Also hot on the track, also hot in action, also quite exciting. Of course, we have to talk about the rookies. This is the rookie rebellion. We have a total of 4 rookie drivers in the top 5 of the championship. Rocco Coronel, of course, championship leader. A difficult weekend in Portugal, but he was still able to get back on the podium at least once. That was enough to keep that point advantage over his countryman, Casper Schormans, unexpected winner of the last race of the weekend. That's the story that we have to mention. And another of the drivers to look out for this weekend. Who's another one to look out for this weekend? Of course, Polish driver Boris Weisen. He was the surprise winner of race 1 and race 2 in Portimao. And suddenly, he's back into the fight for the championship. It is very early in the series. We've done only 2 race meetings in this whole calendar. We're nearing the halfway point of the season, so things can still change before we get to the end of the season. But those wins by the rookies make things very, very special. The only veteran in that top 5 is Noah Monteiro, of course, one of the big candidates for the title. Which means, and this brings us back to the main contenders, MP Motorsport, Campos Racing, Griffin Core, of course, but things are heating up. We have Drivex, who is joining the fight, and do not forget Technical T-Code Amtok, because they were a big factor in Portugal. They could have won 1-2 in that last race of the weekend. Things didn't pan out for them due to a safety car infringement, and that left them without a good result. But this weekend they could do something special. So we have 4 teams and lots of drivers vying for the win. Look forward to it, because this is starting now.
Hello everybody, welcome to the F4 Spanish Championship certified by the FIA. And welcome to the first race of the weekend here at Motorland Aragon, a very interesting racing circuit for these drivers to navigate. My name is Chaz Draycott. I'm delighted to have alongside me Zach Sweeney for the remainder of the season. Zach, fantastic to be here with you. Both of us thrown right in at the deep end here, mate. What a great circuit to start this season off for us two, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here, and nice to be back alongside you as well, Chaz. And yeah, pleasure to be here. Obviously, round 3 of 7 of the 2026 Spanish F4 Championship here at Motorland Aragon, and it's a brilliant circuit. It's a long lap, and the talk of the town so far this weekend has been about the temperature. Obviously, in Spain, you expect it to be pretty hot, but especially here this weekend, the track temp and the air temp super duper hot, and that's something these young drivers really are going to have to be battling with over the course of the 3 races this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Noah Monteiro on screen right now in the number 81 machine, a car that's definitely making me hungry to start my morning. But I'm really, really excited to see how these drivers navigate this circuit, because Aragon, a circuit I've had the pleasure of visiting in the outside of the commentary box. It is a massive, massive lap, like you say, Zach. It's a really, really long lap round here. The drivers are going to struggle with a lot of the lower speed corners. I think these cars, obviously, due to being open-wheeled machines, are really focused on high downforce and making sure that high-speed corners are really their forte. But I think some of the slower, sort of janky corners, let's call them, are going to catch out some of the drivers today in these heavy braking zones.
I'll buy you a thesaurus for your birthday, Chaz, when it comes to the adjectives. But no, you're absolutely right. I was speaking to a couple of the drivers just about that transition, because a lot of these drivers, this is their first step into single-seaters. They've just come off the back of karting in things like WSK and Miami, across Europe for the most part, especially also in SCUSA in the US. A lot of these drivers have taken that first initial step, and it is a big step, probably one of the biggest of their careers, going from karting into Formula 4. And you're right, in terms of the low-speed rotation, there's not a lot in these Formula 4 cars. Yeah, fair enough, you've got the slicks and you've got the wings, and at high speed you definitely can get that rotation, but there is a bit of a finesse, especially in the trail braking zone. You've got to keep the weight on the front nose, and that's really the key. And again, when you've got these hot temperatures where the tyres are scrubbing, it is then an added element on top of that. Also, again, with Aragon, it's not a flat circuit. There's a lot of combined G corners. There's a lot, especially at the top of the hill, through turns 8 into 9, back down, and that run onto the back straight. Again, you've got that dip down, that undulation change, again, unsettles the car. Fair enough, they're a slightly shorter wheelbase, so they can kind of get away with it, but they're a longer wheelbase than what a lot of these drivers are used to. So it is going to be a huge challenge this weekend.
Yeah, really excited to see how they can crack on with it and what they can get done. And like you say, I think one of the pivotal parts of the circuit is that 8 and 9 turn, where they have to dive down the hill and then make sure they get a good run down to the braking zone at turn 12. And then again, you know, on the exit at turn 15, all the way down towards the end of the lap. Should be really, really exciting to see what the actual sort of braking zone capability is like of some of these drivers, or at least the confidence that they have going into that braking zone. Temperatures are indeed very, very toasty at the moment, as you can see here from these shots of the grid. I mean, I don't envy any of the people out there that are on the grid right now. It's warm enough in the UK at the moment, to be honest with you. And I know that from being there at Aragon, you can see there's nowhere to hide from the sunshine at Aragon. It is really in the middle of nowhere, actually. It's in a very beautiful area, but it's right out in the hills. It's a good 3-hour drive from Barcelona Airport, and it is certainly not one where shade is of an abundance, let's say.
No, I've not been to Aragon, but I have heard the stories of how much of a pain it is logistically to get to. It's one that we are quite glad that we're sat at home for. There is Vivek Kanthan, currently coming into this one, P6 in the championship, is one of our race winners so far this season. Has gone on a decent run of form. Has Vivek Kanthan was of course on pole position back at Valencia for round number 1, and has come into this, you know, pretty strong. Has Vivek. He's probably one of the more experienced drivers that we've got for 2026. Of course, come into this one as the 2025 Spanish Winter Series rookie champion. He's won karting championships across on the global stage, Italian American champion as well for Vivek Kanthan. So coming into this, definitely feeling with a bit of confidence for him, and looking to get himself back onto the podium, completely podiumless back at Portimao. So a chance for him to strike back here at Aragon.
Yeah, that's the thing. We've seen a number of drivers be really consistent with their podium finishes. I mean, so far this season, Noah Montero's had 4 third places up to this point, you know, just consistently scoring those points, getting up there. No race wins or anything like that, but just still in the fight and making sure that they're scoring point after point. I'm told that we can now hand down to Alex, who is enjoying the sunshine for himself.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Formula 4 Spanish Championship. We are so glad to have you join us from this weekend onwards. As you have seen, no doubt, it has been a very exciting season so far, because we are just living the change of the guard in many ways live through each weekend. And as you mentioned, we have to enjoy the sunshine here in Spain. As you know, the Spanish summer is going to be really, really hot. And even though technically we're not really into summer yet, the temperatures make me think otherwise. And this is one of the key points of the weekend. Temperatures much higher than they were back in the Spanish Winter Championship. Teams have been struggling a little bit this week, although they have had enough time to test everything. And of course, tires are going to be an issue. The cars are going to perform a little bit different from what they did the last time we came here back in winter. So of course that means different settings, different even driving style to some degree. And this is why we have a starting grid, which is perhaps a bit more unusual compared to what we're used to so far this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key points is that with these cars, they're not the most powerful machines in the world. They all rely on how nimble and light they are. So as a driver, it's all about trying to carry momentum, isn't it? And use as little steering lock as possible, look after those tyres, and, you know, get the most rotation for the least amount of steering lock. I think that's the balance they have to try and go for.
Exactly, and as you know, the Motorland Aragon circuit has a couple of fairly long straights, especially that last back straight back at the circuit, which means that you also need to account for that. You need a car that can run a long gear ratio. Of course, you also need a wing setting that allows you to go quick there, because you cannot waste that time. You're going to lose that time, and more than anything, you need to be able to defend yourself if any driver is attacking from behind. You need to be able to attack any driver that you have ahead of you, and that forces you into a position where you need to find a compromise. we'll see in this race who has found this compromise. But what's clear is that we have at least 4 teams who should be able to fight for the win.
Yeah, it should be interesting to see who can battle for it at the end of the weekend. I mean, Zach, I'm sure you'll vouch that so far this season it's been a bit of a mixture of results. We never really know who's going to be right up there at the top spot. It's so competitive.
Yeah, I mean, the Spanish F4 Championship is super competitive, probably one of the most competitive in the world in terms of both talent that we've got, but also the closeness of the field. I mean, so far we've had 4 different race winners in the form, of course, of Rocco Coronel, Casper Schorman, Boris Leisen and Vivek Kanthan over our 6 races so far this season. And that's wide open as well for each and every single round that we go to. I think particularly at a circuit like Aragon as well, with these long straights where the slipstream is going to be very, very strong. I mean, in qualifying alone, the gap in and amongst the front drivers was very, very minimal, and as such, you know, we're looking, I think, about half a second for the entirety of the top 12 or something in that vein. With the slipstream, with a circuit with plenty of overtaking opportunities, Aragon is going to be probably one of the turning points in the championship.
Yeah, certainly. I think that the drivers are going to be really focused on getting out of the gates well here at the start of the weekend. Alex, like we said, a very difficult circuit to get used to, this one, but if you can start your day off right, that just puts you in a good mood for the rest of it, I suppose. It's all about the mental strength, isn't it, as well?
In many ways, it is about that mental situation that you may have. If you have a good first race, you're in for a good weekend. But as you know, this is also why these Formula 4 categories are interesting for the drivers. Even if you don't have the best start, you have time to bounce back. We have seen drivers bounce back after a difficult race one. So even if anyone doesn't perform necessarily very well here, they have another race today, remember, and they have qualifying 2 and race 3 tomorrow. So that's plenty of opportunities, both to get good results, but also plenty of responsibilities to not mess up. This is a championship where any point and every point counts, especially with so tight situations on track, so little differences between those drivers who will be fighting for the win and those who will be standing just outside of the podium. So they need to make the most of any situation they have. And this ties back to what we were saying. Very tight, very little differences between those top 10 drivers. And this means that, I always like to say this, but any driver in the top 10 today could be fighting for the win, really.
Yeah, they absolutely could be. I think we've seen that so far this season, that anybody in probably the top half of the order could be as well. There's a really good mix. There's a few drivers that have had what we call a flash in the pan result, isn't there, Zach, where they've had maybe a number of outside of top 15 finishes and then all of a sudden come 6th. And again, that's the joy of the unpredictability, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah, and again, it's the talent as well to showcase at this stage. You know, on that sort of the feeder series that run up through the ranks of motorsport. You know, you're going to have poor qualifying. You're going to have days where you're not feeling 100%. It's not about going out there and winning every single race. It's how can you face that adversity and still bounce back. One, in fact, 2 drivers that we'll talk about, I think, are going to be Rocco Coronel and Noah Montero, starting right at the back of the field, as we'll run you through it now.
Absolutely. So it's Ty and Tunon on the front row of the grid then. Kaczynski is going to start in 3rd position alongside Boris Leisen. And we have Petrovic and Kelleher lining up on row 3. I'm intrigued to see what they can do from there. Blaskos and Kanthan are then on the 4th row of the grid, ahead of Schormans, who a little bit further down than we expected. Pinheiro starting in 10th position. And we have the Canadian driver Fischer alongside Mikalev, the Maltese driver, hoping to go further forward. But look at that. Coronel 13th on the grid, first in the championship. He's not going to be too happy to be starting from there. We've got Cochet alongside Burnett on the 9th row of the grid. Then it's Arnaudo and Rice. Rice also doing pretty well in the opening few rounds of the season. Max Radek alongside Karras on row 11. Really does fly through, doesn't it? Stephen Hayden's alongside the other Karras, as we're going to call him, because he's starting 2nd, so he's going to be the other one at the moment. Sato then next up on the 13th row, ahead of Frigolay and Maitinen starting on row 14. Lauet and Neto starting 29th and 30th. Uris, not sure if it shares the name with Lamborghini or not, ahead of Pedersen. And then Bulbarella starting in 33rd position. 17 rows on the grid here, Zach. It is a very, very full grid, isn't it?
It is indeed. That's what we like to see. And again, a close grid all the way through. I think sort of 1 second covers a good portion of that field. As we've mentioned, that slipstream is going to keep everyone nice and tight. And for the sake of the likes of Noah Montero and, of course, our championship leader, Rocco Coronel, they're going to be hoping that the slipstream is going to keep everyone nice and tight. They want to work their way forwards. But that's a lesson that they've learned very, very much from karting in heat races and stuff. They learn how to fight in packs. They learn how to carve their way through. Right now, though, of course, they've got a slightly sensitive base in the form of the F4 chassis, so they're going to have to be a bit more careful, but plenty of opportunities over the next half an hour.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a short race either, is it, Alex? There's a long time for them to have to remain focused for in these machines, and that's why tyres come into it. It's not a 15 or 20-minute sprint. That extra 10 minutes makes a big difference, doesn't it?
It does make a difference, especially on these temperatures that we're going to have this weekend. And do not forget that these drivers, they do not necessarily get new tires for every single session that they have. So they have to manage these tires because, for example, in race 2, which is a shorter race, they might have to use used tires. So tire management, key on this weekend. It is true that most of the drivers have enough experience on these races to know that 30 minutes is something that they can do. But again, most of the experience, especially for the rookie drivers, may have been in the winter, where tire management was not as crucial. And so now that we get into the really, really spicy temperatures, that's when that experience is going to come in handy. Whatever they have learned through those test sessions, free practice, and even qualifying will be crucial to make sure they make it to the end of the race with good conditions. In that sense, do not just keep an eye on those drivers who are quick from the start, but also those who are perhaps tucked in behind their rivals, knowing that they can make it until the end with better tire conditions, because those might be the ones taking the ducks to the water.
Yeah, very much so. Very much. It could really be somebody that comes out of the gates here, Zach, and surprises us here this morning. And like I said before, that could very much put them in a good mindset for the rest of the day.
Yeah, momentum is a huge thing in these fields, and again, you know, they've set the grid for race 1 and race 2. Their second fastest lap in qualifying dictates the start for race number 2. They've still got another qualifying session to do. They've still got a session where they have to be going flat out. So a good result today will give them that sort of that mental boost, that morale boost to go into tomorrow and hit it swinging. Particularly if you're a driver like Nathan Ty, who's obviously taken his maiden pole position this weekend. So far this season has had a string of pretty decent top 10 finishes. The standout of those being race 1 at Portimao, where he finished P2. But other than that, has not been on the podium. This is a golden opportunity for him to deliver a really good result and potentially turn around his championship. Comes into this one P8 in the standings, as we approach the halfway point in Harima in a few weeks' time. This is a crucial moment for him to regain some of that momentum, get a hold on his season and go forwards. The next 30 minutes could be very deciding for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to note that the momentum isn't just over the course of the weekend, is it? You're absolutely right. You know, it's not just from one race to the next and one day to the next. It's the whole season as well. So if you can just put that one performance that, you know, you could have one race where you go really, really well and overtake a driver, sit in front of them for the whole thing, that'll get in the other driver's head. It's all about trying to win the mental battle against a lot of the others. So I think as long as they can put in that individual performance early on in the season, then they'll, as we say, live rent-free in the other drivers' heads for the course of the championship. But you can see a very busy grid before us right here at Motorland Aragon. You can see just how the circuit dips away there, actually, out of the final corner, can't you, Zach? It really is quite a climb up and across the start-finish line. Yeah,
it is. It's something that, you know, it's a factor as well. Let's not forget, again, that exit off of the hairpin, it impacts that run up in towards turn number 1, which wouldn't usually be an overtaking opportunity. It's deceptively tight, is turn number 1. You almost want to turn in early, carry the speed through it, and then very quickly you realise the track limits come at you quite quickly. But if you get a poor run off the final corner, you've then got to battle uphill. We've already touched on the fact that these Formula 4 cars aren't the most powerful, and if you struggle to get that low end torque, if you struggle to get the power band up over the crest, you could be susceptible to an overtake into a part of the circuit you're probably not very used to being overtaken at. 1 minute board being shown there, as we can see, so hopefully it won't be too much longer until we can get this race underway. A very deciding race, like we say, and already touched on a lot of challenges. Tyre management is going to be a thing. These Hankook tyres are very, very good. Let's not forget they can do sort of 7 back-to-back push laps in qualifying, and that's what these drivers were doing. 7 back-to-back push laps in qualifying. but still that element is there. If you scrub too much, you then start that perpetual feedback loop of scrubbing the tyre. It heats up, so you scrub it, and then it's that feedback loop. So even though the tyres are very, very structurally sound and can be pushed on, you don't want to push it too far, especially, as we've touched on, a very long race.
Yeah, definitely. That 10 minutes at the end really will make a big difference. And I think that's the window where we'll see whether drivers have been looking after the tyres or not. So I'm excited to see that moment of the race when it suddenly shifts over. But there you can see the real scale of the grid here that we have in the F4 Spanish Championship. A massive, massive grid of cars. You can hear the revs rising as they all prepare for the formation lap and head away. Lovely sounding machines by Tatus, the manufacturer that make a hell of a lot of these open wheel cars in many categories all around the world. But these turbocharged F4 machines have a lovely whistle and growl about them, don't they, Zach? They make a good old racket.
They do sound good, and they look good. Genuinely, I would like to say the Formula 4 chassis is one of the best looking open wheel cars there is. Also as well, the T318 EC3 as well, the Euro Cup car, both look fantastic. So Tatus, of course, do a brilliant job. And the teams as well. We have to give some credit to the liveries. We're probably going to be on livery watch throughout the rest of the season, but some of them do look fantastic. These are full professional outfits, and again, the drivers, they look good, they sound good, and most importantly, they race good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The DriveX cars, obviously, Zach and I learning the championship as we get thrown into the commentary box for our first time together here, but the livery that really caught me out was the DriveX livery to begin with, looking like a well-known retro Formula 1 team livery, let's say, from the late 80s into the early 90s, and it really does look smart. Of course, one of them right at the front of the grid, though, with Nathan Tighe starting on pole position. He's going to have a lot of pressure on his shoulders here, though, Zach, to make sure that he holds on to that in the early stages of the race. And, well, hopefully we won't see any contact between teammates like we saw back at Portimao with the DriveX team.
Yeah, we'll see. Let's see what turn one brings. It's a very technical first half of the lap as well. You've got the combined braking as you go up the hill as well, sort of through turns 5 into 6. So there is a lot of challenge. They're obviously going to be working on their tyre warming here. Hopefully the tyres won't be stone cold by the time they get there. On a circuit like this, probably not the case. I'm sure Kiksinski and Tighe will have the measure. They'll be working together. Again, a circuit where slipstream is powerful. If the DriveX team can sort of get their head down and get into a rhythm, if they can break 3 of the toe from the likes of Nacho Tugnon and Boris Leisen, they should be able to drive away and hopefully get into their rhythm. Obviously, should and will are 2 very different words, and we'll sort of see what lap 1 can bring us. But the aim is going to be there, the plan is going to be there. After lap 1, it's probably going to get ripped up and thrown away, but we'll see. Yeah,
we absolutely will. I love that you're as speculative as I am about these things. Just you have to play through these scenarios in your head and wonder what might happen. Zach and I have both been around the block for a while, so we know how these things go sometimes. And the one thing you can always predict in motorsport is absolutely nothing. Everything is just going to get, well, completely, I don't even know the right phrase, actually. There was an English phrase that was in my head then, but it's fallen out of my ears. Either way, another view there at just how big our grid is. You know, it's a long formation lap, and that's important as well for the drivers that are going to get to the grid first. They're going to be sat on their grid spots for quite a while before the rest of the field is formed around, so they have to think about that as well, not storm off into the distance on this formation lap. And I think that's a point that we're going to be able to make all season, really.
And also as well, physically with the tyres and brakes, of course, but mentally, you're sat stationary for so long. You've got so much time in your own head, especially for Nathan Tighe. Now, don't get me wrong, he's a fantastic driver. Of course, was the vice champion of the Spanish Winter Series, taking 2 wins and 3 podiums. He's won championships across karting, Champions of the Future, as one of them, OKJ in the European Championship as well, and was P7 in 2025 was Nathan Tighe. So he's a driver that definitely knows how to deal with pressure. But when you're sat on pole position, your first pole position of the season, chasing your first win of the season, understandably, those thoughts are going to start to creep in.
Yeah, they absolutely will do. An interesting moment there, actually, for Nathan Tighe. As he came up to the grid, he avoided driving through any of the grid boxes on the right-hand side, maybe because that is the racing line, but I don't know, he sort of avoided it there as he got to his grid box and then pulled in really sharp at the final moment. So intrigued to see or know why that might have been. I'm not sure if there's a specific tactic behind that. Didn't see anybody else doing that. But as you can see, it's calmed down slightly. We've got 2 cars starting from the pit lane. They're going to make their way through. And any moment now, it'll be time for liftoff here at Motorland Aragon. And the first race of the weekend in the F4 Spanish Championship is underway. The lights are out. Looks like an even start from the front row of the grid. A really good start from Nathan Tighe, actually. Looks like from second position, Tunon didn't quite get the getaway that he wanted, but he's got the inside line to defend through turn 1 and manages to hold off the drivers from the second row just behind. But what a launch from Nathan Tighe. He's disappeared off up the road. It's not often you see that in Formula 4 racing. Usually they're very stuck together, but he's had an absolute corker there. Car running wide in the background, able to keep it together as they go up through the left-hander now into the first heavy braking zone of the lap. You can see a little bit of smoke and a bit of dust being kicked up here and there. Everybody keeping it nice and tidy through these opening corners by the look of it. Got a couple of drivers moving around in the background. Looks like Shawman's made up a position or two. That's car 77 side by side in the midfield there. Just trying to figure it all out, but it's, wow, a little bit feisty after the first few corners there, Zach.
Yeah, it is indeed, but Nathan Tighe, that was beautiful. Got the clutch bite point exactly where he wanted it, and he's been able to get this lap 1 sort of for the most part in the books with very little pressure. It was a really good start as well. I think from Andrej Petrovic, who made a couple of moves in the initial get-go. Kaczynski and Lysen fighting with the likes of Tunon, and in doing so gave Nathan Tighe that breathing space. Whether that's going to last for very long is another thing, but look at that. He's already pulled a good sort of 5 or 6 car lengths over the rest of the field, and that is a very crucial buffer to sort of get yourself into the rhythm of this race. So far, so clean as well for the opening lap.
Yeah, it looks really good, doesn't it? You've got a good train of them behind as well, which could distract the following drivers. I think it's Kelleher that's under pressure at the moment from Shawman. Shawman's not wanting to hang around here and wait to gain positions. Just trying to see where Coronel is at the moment. He's in 12th position right now, so he's gained a couple of places off the start. In fact, only just one, wasn't he? He was 13th on the grid. He's trying to get into the slipstream now as we've got cars side by side just ahead as well. Looked like that was the 38 there of Kelleher trying a move as well. Looks like Petrovic runs a little bit deep into the hairpin. Up, steady on Sunshine outside of the penultimate corner. I thought there was surely going to be contact there between Shawman's and Kelleher, but no, that is not the case. And across the line for the first time, Nathan Tighe, 1.5 seconds in the lead of this race. That's a dream first lap in Formula 4, isn't it?
Yeah, it's probably the best you're ever going to get, so relish in it for while you can, Nathan Tighe. Chasing his maiden victory, of course, of the season. His best result thus far, like we say, P2 race 1 back at Portimao. A little bit of pressure on his shoulders, but an experienced driver, he knows how to keep his cool, and that composure is going to be his sort of, well, probably his best weapon over the next 27 and a half minutes. Tunon about 4 tenths clear of Kaczynski as well, so that gap. The question remains, are they going to work together to try and chase Nathan Tighe, or are they going to actually battle and sort of put the anchors down for P2? It's something that we see all too often in the world of karting. But Nathan Tighe, fair enough, it's a good gap. It's not uncatchable. If they can get their heads down and get themselves locked in, the race win is still on.
You can see just the way that the cars are sliding their way through turn 8 there as they go over the crest of the hill. The back end just wants to let go and continue heading straight on. There is your race leader, Nathan Tighe. Fantastic start from him. But as Zach has rightly mentioned, that gap is very catchable in the slipstream in these cars, which is very, very strong. You can start to just get a little tickle of it down the long straights here. And if you're within maybe a second and a half, I think I'd say, then you might start to feel the benefits of that. And obviously, the closer you get, the more that is exaggerated. Need to apologise and correct myself. It was actually Montero and Shawman's that were fighting for position earlier on, and Montero was right on the back of him at the start of this lap. We saw the two of them trying to, well, get one over on one another. Looks like Coronel has made another place up in the background as well. He's just on a purple middle sector, but look at that in the background, Zach, fanning out 4 wide at the back of the field.
Yeah, that is intense. I think that's Jacob Mikulev, Koshe, Luna Flusha as well, all doing some battle. Plenty of cars. Try and pick this one apart as they make their way into the hairpin for what will be the second time. Very defensive from one of the cars as they try and retain the lead of that respective train, and they have been able to do that indeed. That's the 74 machine. That's Stephen Hayden. So that's the battle for 16. So the GRS driver able to stay in front. Behind that, you've got Flusha and the KCL of Koshe. Also Burnett, the Canadian, trying to get involved. Argy barges, they rise over the crest, doing themselves no favours to chase after the top 10, but giving us a cracking battle here as they start lap 3.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like one of them in there, I think it might be Karas, has got a side pod sort of lifted up. That's the 28 having a hard time through the first couple of corners as well. Bit of a wobble on the exit there. Oh, a bit of contact, wheel-to-wheel contact there as well between the red machine. Goodness me, they're all really switching lines very quickly, aren't they? The number 12 was involved in that. That was the other Karas, as I'm going to call the two of them now. But yeah, they're having a heck of a battle there. And there was nearly contact just as they tried to adjust one line to the other. Very, very feisty stuff. But there's battles all up and down the order. Oh, dearie me, big accident. That's the number 71 involved, but the car that went over the top, I didn't quite catch the number of that one and into the barriers. Luckily, didn't go completely over. But that, I'm sure, will be a delay to proceedings here, Zach.
Absolutely. I think it was one of the KCL Motorsports. Look at that. Dean Pedersen able to get away for DXR. Presumably, I would imagine, with at least a little bit of damage. We'll try and catch the number. One of the number plates is on the rear wing. One of the cars no longer has one. So that makes our life just that little bit more tricky in trying to call it apart. I believe it would be it's Max Radek and Loet, one of the TC Racing's, Thibaut Courtois' racing team. I think that's Bo Loet there in the barrier, the black and gold livery. And then Max Radek in the DXR machine now walking over to the recovery point. Not an ideal way to kickstart your weekend. There's another look at it, and just see there, that's Bo Loet, I think, getting launched over the top. And when we talk about the sensitivity of these Formula 4 cars, this is exactly what we mean.
Yeah, Loet was really lucky there, actually, because there was 2 bits of wheel-to-wheel contact that launched the car upwards, and the second one could have put the car back over on its top, of course. Very grateful that it didn't. And Loet, by the look of it, able to get out of the car, but the marshals are just over making sure that they're okay and all good to get out. Maybe a little bit winded after a landing like that from being thrown up over the top of the other car, but yeah, that's just how easily it can happen, though. All it takes is for one car to go around, and then you get that little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, and it will just hop them up in the air. They really do not weigh a lot, these machines, so it doesn't take a massive amount. Another car heading into the pit lane there. We'll try and keep our eye on who that is. I think that is Mikolev, actually, heading in. He's just come up on the timing screen that he's in the pits. Maybe involved in all of that, and maybe making the initial contact with Pedersen in the 71 machine.
Anyone that's raced the Formula 4 cars on any simulator will know how unbelievably chaotic a lot of those races are. There's a front wing being prepared for the 71 of Dean Pedersen, but being walked back in. So I think the DriveX team just calling that a day. The DXR team, of course, a lot of these teams, and you'll see a lot of them under the same banner in the same team kit, but some of them basically are run under the same banner. The likes of MP Motorsport and KCL are one of them. Griffincorp and Campos, they can't field more than 3 cars at a time, so of course they just enter another team. So when we talk about Griffincorp and Campos, in reality, they are the same team. They're scored separately in terms of the team's championship, but they do have that partnership. They are all under one banner, so they are all, of course, working together. Looking there, though, at the positional changes, Paul Barella, the biggest gainer of them all, the Argentine, up 10 places, but inside the top 10, Noah Montero making the difference and climbing up 5 places in the opening few laps.
Yeah, Montero will be really pleased with that. We saw him having a go at the back of Schurman's as well, and showing that he was up for a fight at least. And now he's obviously gained the positions to match that. Coronel not making as much progress, but I tell you, Nathan Tye will be a little bit fed up at the fact that there's a safety car, because he did still hold that gap very, very nicely in the opening laps. But it's all now gone away. But that's part of racing. Oh, now we can see the rear wing and know who it is. Thank you, marshals. But yeah, we get now to neutralise the race and start these things again. But yeah, you can see it's just popped the bodywork. It looks very dramatic, doesn't it, the damage to that car? But realistically, it's a few suspension arms are bent, but everything else has snapped off and dispatched as it's meant to, really.
It's done its job, right? And safety, the forefront, of course, of single-seat racing, of motorsport in general. And the last few years, since 2018, the introduction of the Halo in Formula 1, since then, they've taken so many steps forward, and it wasn't the biggest crash in the world, but ultimately it was one that the drivers were very well protected on. On this topic of repair time as well, when it comes to sort of drivers and teams, a story back to Andrej Petrovic, who so far this season has been dubbed the most unlucky driver. He's running P5 at the moment in this race. He had a crash in Portimao, got away from it. The team only had 1 hour to repair the car, came back and had a podium. But of course, talking of the race start as well, look at how good of a start that was from the inside third row of the grid, I believe it was. I think it was Petrovic who made such a good launch and was already in the scrap on the opening lap.
Yeah, and then he had the difficult thing there, though, is suddenly he's met with a wall of cars and he wasn't able to continue that charge after the first couple of corners. Very high-speed section, so it's hard to outbrake one another and make moves there. We're told that Alex is on standby. He's in the pit lane, and, well, he's actually managed to find some shade. Alex, what have you heard?
Actually, guys, it was such a coincidence. I was protecting myself from this glaring sun here in Motorland inside the Griffin Core garage. So we saw in front of us, actually, Mikalev stopping to fix his car a little bit. To be fair, the mechanics did not have the chance to fix much, but the underside of the car suffered some good bashing. And actually, we can look at it just to my right. They used some tape to make sure that this didn't continue to lower, to get a bit too loose, but I'm thinking that this doesn't look very good, does it? Because after just one lap behind the safety car, if this car is back to the garage, I think this is a game over for the Maltese driver, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a big shame. Big shame indeed, especially so early in the weekend, but hopefully the damage isn't too extensive and it's an easy fix for them later on for the second race of the day. Really excited to see how we can come through. But of course, one of the good things about the format that we have here, Zach, is that the drivers don't then have to start from the back of the grid. The race 1 result doesn't set the grid for race 2, does it? So they've got more of a chance to score points.
Indeed so, and the team will have the job of repairing the car. Like I was saying with Petrovic, before we obviously took the replay at the start, the team only had 1 hour to repair the car before the next race, came back through and got onto the podium, and it just shows that you can have those reversals in a format and in a series as competitive as this, if you're a driver that can excel. And from what we've seen from Mikalev, of course, took the first Maltese pole position in the F4 Spanish Championship, of course, last round when we took to Portimao, has been looking very strong. Best results so far this season of P4. He is one driver who will be able to bounce back. Ultimately in Portimao it was a puncture that cost him, so he's going to have a review, understandably going to be quite frustrated at the turn of events of this race, but this is the challenge now. You face the adversity, and to be fair, he's had his fair share of it so far this season. It's how he can now bounce back for race number 2. And like you rightly say, it's not just about putting your foot to the floor and going flat out for 1 lap in qualifying. You also want a good second lap banked for race number 2 a bit later on. And that is a good opportunity once again for the grid to be slightly shaken up and maybe some underdogs to come back through and get a good result.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's a great format for keeping things competitive. It means that when the first race of the weekend is done, that's not weekend done. You know, we've both, I'm sure, covered a number of motorsports where there's one race in a weekend, and that puts even more pressure on the drivers to perform that one time. If that race is over, then the whole weekend's right off. We're going to get going, though. Nathan Tighe and Tunion chasing him down then as they head across the line to get this race back underway here at Motorland Aragon. Kaczynski leading the rookies at the moment in the blessed number 44, with Lysen running in 4th place, and already people trying to make moves down to turn 1. Not hanging around here. That's Shawman's trying to get by the 38 of Kelleher. He's actually managed to get a bit of a cutback on him there, but he's going to be on the outside now for the next 2 corners. Looks nice and even between the top 3, although I'd say Tunion caught up a little bit by Kaczynski there. Kaczynski could potentially help his teammate if he gets in front of the Spaniard this early on, but there's the move down the inside by Shawman's there, Zach. He's making it work now. He's really pushing.
Yeah, track limits, of course, talk of the town so far this weekend. Couple of drivers already on their final warning. Shawman, though, making some headway, is the Dutchman. P2 in the championship coming into this round and has a golden opportunity to claw back some points on Coronel. The gap between them only 6 points, so Shawman carving his way through the field, now looking very strong indeed. Trying to make his way through on Vivek Kanthan as well was Casper Shawman. Now has the task of leading the train, leading the chasing train to get after the leaders. Nathan Tighe and his initial start, very good indeed. This safety car, though, acting as the great reset. Nacho Tunion and Kaczynski both now able to close back in, and look at that run. Look at how close they are now for the fight for the lead.
Yeah, this next couple of corners is going to be really important. Turn 14, the right-hander now to set himself up for 15. And now is the launch onto the back straight. Of course, he's not going to be able to escape the slipstream. Slipstream is going to be massive down this back straight. The team watching on eagerly. They're all excited by what's happening. Oh, car off in the background already. Car off at turn 15. There's another one just grazing the gravel. But look at this. Tunion going for the race lead. Moves all the way over to the left, right behind Nathan Tighe. Tries it onto the brakes now into... Well, he's already cleared him before the braking zone. Tighe tries to go back down the inside. Tunion goes left, goes right, and now look at that. Kaczynski around the outside. Says, go on then, I'll try this. Tries to move up into second place. The teammates really not helping each other here, though, Zach. That was not ideal through the last couple of corners, and that gives Tunion a bit of breathing room. But here comes Lysen.
Yeah, indeed so. So this is going to allow Tunion to get away. Safety car thrown, though, so they are going to have to halt this racing immediately. just trying to see as to who it was. I think it was Mika Blaskos potentially that was one of them caught in the gravel. We'll confirm when we see it. But that was a great glimpse into the racing action that we can see in this championship. You saw there the driver off in the background. Meanwhile, the racing did not stop. They're past the incident. They're still under green flag, ducking and diving Nathan Tai to keep the lead. Then the T-code, of course, slash Technica of Nacho Tunion came to the outside. Kaczynski, we spoke about team orders, had a no part of it. Straight away, a bit of a civil war between the two Drive X drivers. And then Boris Lysen got his nose in, got involved straight away. You know, it's not just a one-on-one. Very quickly, you've got so many other drivers, so many other variables to throw their hat into the ring. And just over halfway into this race, we've seen pretty much, we've had it all so far, and we've still got just under half the race to go.
Yeah, we've had a lovely clean start, a lot of battles, and then, of course, a lot of slipstreaming as well, a couple of safety cars. But as you said, though, Zach, I mean, you spend a lot of time in open-wheel cars over on iRacing, and you know how chaotic these races are, as you alluded to earlier. You speak from experience, I know. But I tell you, these races in real life, just as chaotic as well. You know, we always argue that on the sim, there's not as much consequence if you go for a move and it doesn't work out or anything like that. But in the real world, these are young drivers trying to make their way up the ranks, trying to prove themselves. They're full of confidence, sometimes a bit too much. And it's always exciting to see them display that confidence for us here. They're not obviously here just to put on a show for us, but they do that anyway without trying, don't they?
Yeah, indeed so. You know, we talk of the simulator, and to be fair, I think it is a testament, actually, for these young drivers. It's a tool that 10, 15 years ago, probably when these drivers were born. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Chaz as well for that one. These guys...
Excuse me. Wow.
These young drivers, it's a tool that drivers of the past haven't had before, and yet these guys, you know, they can do, you know, 6, 7 races, sorry, I did not mean to do that, over the course of a day on the sim. They can get that experience, they can get that racecraft, and then translate it into the real world. We spoke earlier, a lot of them fresh out of karting, where, you know, some of them were top dogs, world, European champions, you know, top of their game. They've now come into what is a very fresh restart. Speaking to a couple of the drivers, Aleix Pinheira, who did sort of the X30 Miami route. Other drivers did the more OKJ, the Rotax route as they came through karting. Aleix said none of that really matters by the time you get to single-seaters. It's a complete fresh reset. A lot of these drivers have come from being top dog to now having to be right at the bottom, effectively, of their journey once again. Have to go through the painstaking process of learning how to race in a very different dynamic, in bigger, in faster cars, at bigger circuits. It's a very hugely different dynamic, and one that we're seeing sort of unfold in front of our very eyes.
A word I really love in motorsport is versatility, and that's what these drivers really have to display. You know, even just over the course of a weekend, whether they have an inconsistent qualifying, they start near the front, then suddenly for race 2 they start near the back. They've got 2 very different races on their hands. They need to display versatility. And it's the same when you're going through the ranks, you know, going from karting, like you said, a very short wheelbase machine that will spin on its own axis very quickly, to a Formula 4 car where it's more about carrying momentum and slipstreaming, and a much longer wheelbase, of course, and maybe arguably more expensive. But there's so many more elements to making your way up through the ranks than staying in the same form of racing for many years. I mean, my bread and butter is truck racing usually. A lot of the drivers in that have always, I mean, I think our whole field now have been in truck racing for over 10 years. There's nobody that's new to it that's come through the ranks. So they don't have to adapt to different machinery and change their ways. But these drivers are very often, I mean, we're at the 3rd race meeting of the season now. Some of these drivers, this is their 3rd ever race meeting in a Formula 4 car. So that's just the beauty of this, is we're watching them improve and learn and get better while they're still putting on incredible racing for us at the highest level. It's brilliant to watch.
Ultimately, as much as these drivers are, you know, from 15 to 17, they are very young. They still do know what they're doing. You know, we've flipped this narrative a little bit to say they're fresh, and to an extent they are. Like I say, this is their first step on the single-seater journey. But they still know what they're doing. These drivers invest, and we saw on the side there of Kaczynski's car, the Ward Racing outfit. That was his team through karting, a hugely successful karting team. They invest so much into their driver coaches, their mechanics. These drivers really do get stuck in with data and experience, and they get this tutoring from when they're in the minis, right? From when they're 8, 9, 10 years old, all the way up through the ranks. So they've been exposed to that knowledge for a long, long time. It's now the case of actually putting it into practice that they're learning about, trying trial and error, finding what works, what doesn't work. And that is the dynamic that we're seeing unfold here. But at the rawest level, they are exposed to the knowledge that does produce good racecraft.
Yeah, it really does. Really does produce great racecraft, and that's one of the beautiful things, is that you'll then see that skill get translated further on. Just having a look down the timing screen, and I can tell you that Cochet in the 39 machine, 17th position at the moment, has a 5-second penalty for track limits, 6 track limits infringements at the moment. A couple of drivers on their final warnings, I believe, Sato and Florescu, with 4 and 3 respectively. Let's get this race back underway then. Take 3 now here at Aragon. And already Tunion moving over to the left-hand side, then weaving to the right, just to try and negate that slipstream a little bit. We've got 2 packs of them across the line. Coronel trying to make a move in the background. Tunion holds onto it, down towards turn 1, nearly 3 wide in the background. Coronel squeezed out on the outside there. Coronel standing out like a sore thumb in the beautifully Red Bull liveried machine in the middle of the pack there. But Tunion, great getaway, moving away from Nathan Tai and getting away from Kaczynski as well. I'm hoping, Zach, that those 2 teammates now decide to work together for the rest of the race, but they didn't show us that was the plan earlier, did they?
No, not in the slightest. For Tunion as well, not only this is his opportunity for his first podium of the season, it's obviously, not only is this an opportunity for his first win of the season, it's an opportunity for his first podium of the season.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that rides on this race, up through turn 7 and towards the chicane at 8 and 9, where it is a huge challenge. We've got a number of cars side by side, and ultimately in the end, figuring themselves out into single file. For Casper Schormans, though, making quick work, fighting away with the 81 of Noah Montero and the 22 of Vivek Kanthan, making his way past there, the Griffin Core white and blue machine. Casper Schormans now on the back of Andrei Petrovic, the Tico by Amtog car, as they make their way into the chicane, and then of course that run onto the back straight. You have to say Tunion has settled into his pace quite well, largely unchallenged for the best part of this lap, but Nathan Tai in the slipstream, we know how powerful it is on that run to the hairpin.
We absolutely do. It looks like Schorman's trying to set himself up for that slipstreaming as well. But you want to start a little bit further away from the car in front, don't you, and get that sort of additional slingshot. You don't want to start that back straight right up behind the car in front, because you won't get much of an overspeed on them. Tunion weaving this way and that way. When they're that far apart, he's well within his right to do so. The whole field spreading out slightly. And again, Schorman trying another move here. He's right on the back of Kanthan, and now tries it round the outside into the final corner. Coronel, by the way, has dropped back down a number of positions. Schorman round the outside, committed as you like through the hairpin. Now he's going to have the inside line to the right. And Montero says, hey, I'm going to have a go on my teammate here. He tries it round the outside. What is it with teammates and fighting through these final corners? Kanthan back in the slipstream now, but look, Montero's barely got anywhere to go. Fantastic fighting between these guys. This is exactly why we turn up to watch this. And Schorman, the whole time, holds off both of the teammates as they struggle through turn 1.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's a very tight, deceptively tight corner. Going around the outside there is very, very tricky. A lesson a lot of these guys will learn from karting, where can and realistically can't. I know you can overtake anywhere, but a lot of the time you are just going to get the steering open up on you, and you are going to run wide. Thankfully, track limit's fairly forgiving in terms of not running into a barrier here at Aragon. Side by side as well, that's Arnaldo on the outside of Dan Kelleher for P9 and P10, getting involved in that respective battle. The, of course, Griffin Core teammates battling it out. Meanwhile, at the front, Tunion from Tai, he has been able to bridge the gap. It was 3 quarters of a second last time they broke the beam. Big lock up there, though, heading into the chicane. That's going to put him off by the time they reach the left-hander. That's the 73 with some front left end plate damage as well. That going the way of Arnaldo.
Yeah, I was just having a look at Arnaldo and his results for this season. Best result is 12th place, and he's finished there 3 times. So he's on for his best at the moment, as Kelleher seemingly dropping down the timing screen there. I wonder if that's where the damage came from, if there was contact just off screen. But Kelleher has dropped all of a sudden down to 18th position in the Campos racing car. But look at this at the very front of the order, though, Zach. It is a wonderful drive now by Tunion. Looked a little bit under the radar in the opening moments of the race, but now right up to the front. Nacho trying to get away, but on just 19 points at the moment. Needs a little bit more than this to get right into the championship fight. His teammates fighting now over second and third.
Yeah, indeed. So side by side, Kaczynski versus Nathan Tai. Tai with the pole position now dropping back into the pack. The 44, that's Kaczynski on the outside, getting pushed wide by his teammate there. 2 wheels over the curb. Safety car gets thrown out though, so that's going to bring a halt to this driving between the 2 teammates. That did give Tunion a nice gap. However, once again, that gap going to be neutralised. We have only got 5.5 minutes left of this race though. This does need to be a fairly quick safety car procedure. No more really than a lap by the time they've gone round under safety car. It's going to be quite tight if we get this race back underway.
Yeah, it looks like it is Kelleher that has dropped down now, unfortunately, into 30th position. Hasn't completed the third sector. He was 7 seconds slower in the middle sector, so clearly came to blows with. It was Arnaldo, wasn't it? That we believe he made contact with. Arnaldo did actually drop back into 12th place. Obviously, that front wing damage ruining the performance of the car. I wonder whether from this shot we'll be able to pick out where Kelleher's car can be. It's great to have these shots. As there in the pit lane is the number 38 of Kelleher. So he is back in. It's just that he hadn't crossed the start. I've only got one good one. He's actually going back out onto the circuit. But yeah, I think that's the benefit of having a massive monitor here at home. Actually, I'm quite grateful for it. But yeah, he's back out onto the circuit. So clearly no major dramas. I did think he had actually stopped out on track, but I wonder why the safety car was called if that was not the case. Unless Martinez has had a drama, because Martinez seems to have dropped down as well. Interesting. Yeah. We'll find out.
Yeah,
just been
at
debris.
some point. Yeah, 100%. I was just about to say it could have just been the case that there was too much debris. Spanish heat, the marshals don't want to be running on circuit and then have to deal with what have we got still running in this race, 29 cars. Well, 30 cars still with Kelleher out on circuit. There's the recovery. That's for the safety car then. There we go. That one is solved. And yeah, for Kelleher, I mean, as long as he's not off the lead lap, this safety car brings him right back into it. If it's a quick repair in terms of the front wing, fair enough, he's starting at the back, but who knows what can happen if we go green flag racing, even if it is just for the single lap.
I think it's Pedersen, you know. I think that's Pedersen's car, and for the second time this race, he's come to blows because he managed to get away from the incident earlier on, didn't he? But yeah, it seems like Pedersen and Kelleher were the two that dropped down. I mistakenly mentioned Martinez, so apologies. But yeah, it looks like Pedersen didn't complete the second sector this time round because he was only one lap down, so he definitely continued after the earlier incident. But that is a big shame. Yeah, maybe more of an incident than we let on for a moment. Wow. Or is that that's the car from earlier on, isn't it? That was Radek's car, wasn't it?
Indeed, yeah.
My mistake. We'll learn. I will. I'll try.
Yeah, but to be fair, they are the same car. DX. They are both DXR, so their livery will be fairly similar. We'll see. We're learning as we go through. If this is your first time watching the F4 Spanish Championship, by the way, same. It's mine and Chaz's first time commentating it, so you are learning with us as well. For Nacho Tuñón, though, I said earlier, this is his opportunity for not only his first victory, his first podium. On circuit, that did come last time out at Portimao. He was stripped of that based on a penalty that is still under review. But in terms, as they catch up to the safety car, in terms of legitimate, clear-cut, no controversial victories, this is a golden opportunity for Tuñón and for Ty. I am also just checking if that is also the case for Kudzinski. It is indeed. For these three drivers inside the top three, it's an opportunity for their first victory of the season.
It's going to be very exciting for them, and well, you've just got to hope that while we blew a lot of smoke up backsides earlier on, didn't we, saying that these guys know what they're doing, and for their age, they're incredibly sort of older-minded. They think about the big picture. They don't just think flat-out racing here and there, and they just think that every single position matters. They will know when to hold and when to fold. But I think that it's all about making sure that they've got the patience here to not just go and do something silly at the front. They know that this is a good opportunity, so they have to just think about the big picture in this moment. But when you've got that win right in front of you, it's easier said than done from where we sit, isn't it?
Yeah, try and tell a racing driver not to go for a race victory, especially 15, 16-year-old racing driver. Ultimately, fair enough, and that's where the maturity comes in, and different drivers will be at different stages of that. There are the T-Code and Technicar guys who are coming into this, admittedly by themselves, as underdogs into this season, taking the fight to Campos and MP, who have dominated the team's championship over years gone by. They're in a great position here, of course, looking very, very strong, with Nacho Tuñón leading the way. Eagerly, the entire team, it seems, on the pit wall, probably with their hearts in their mouths waiting, hoping maybe that this race finishes under safety car, but even if it does go green flag at the end of this lap, we'll have to wait and see what Nacho Tuñón can bring. We get the 30 minutes plus the lap as well, so it's the lap after the timer tick 0 that the final lap is. The safety car shoots off, so we will be going back green flag this lap. Pressure is on now, lads.
Absolutely is, isn't it? Really, really on. So we will get 2 laps of racing by the look of it then, because there's 30 seconds left Oh, this might be close, actually, whether they make it across the line before it hits 0 or after it hits 0. In fact, no, I don't think we will. It may just be a one-lap sprint to the flag.
Tunyon's going to make sure of it, isn't he? He's going to make sure that hits 0 before he goes.
Yeah, definitely. He doesn't want to have to defend for 2 laps. You might have thought that, I mean, just thinking laterally here, I imagine he would have expected Nathan Tye to go past. If they had 2 laps, he'd let Nathan Tye through for slipstream and then try and get him back on the final lap so they can swap 1 lap each. But, well, it's down to 0 now. This is going to be a 1-lap sprint to the flag in the F4 Spanish Championship here at Aragon, and Tunyon already going left, then right, trying to break that slipstream once more. He's got Tye, Kaczynski, Lysen and Petrovic all over the back of him. Petrovic having his own fight there with Shawman, who's trying to go round the outside at turn 1. And look at that, it was a big send by Lysen. Now they're 3 wide on the exit of turn 2. That's going to mean that right now Nathan Tye can break away. 3 wide still, as round the outside has gone Petrovic. Lovely move indeed. Shawman on the inside line there, trying to make that work. It's really not worked out for Kaczynski. And Lysen now takes the lead in the rookies as well, Zach.
Yeah, he does indeed. Boris Lysen up there. What it has been able to do, like you say, it's allowed the top 2 to get away. This is a 1v1, maybe even the introduction of Petrovic into the mix, but side by side through turn number 7, the 21 and the 44. That, of course, is Lysen and Kaczynski running wide. Bit of debris there as one of the GRS drivers goes off. That's the 74 of Stephen Hayden's down in 14th. Made some great progress up until that point through turn number 9 for the final time. There is Casper Shawman getting into the mix with the top 5 right in front of him. But meanwhile, Tunyon versus Tye all the way to the flag.
Yeah, it looks like Tunyon's able to hold a decent gap as well. It's half a second at the moment, now 6/10 as they break the latest beam, but Tye will get a good amount of slipstream from that distance. Tye just needs to make sure now that through these final corners, he gets a really good run onto that back straight. Petrovic all of a sudden finds himself in a podium position, and we are suddenly barren of rookies in the podium spots. Obviously, they have their own class as well to worry about, so it's 3 non-rookies and then 3 rookies, so I'm sure they won't be too upset. But onto the back straight they go for the final time, and Tunyon again, very rightly moving left and right, weaving, not enough to scrape off a load of speed, but look at that snake of them in the background. If nobody had watched motorsports before, they'd think that was so odd. But it looks like Tunyon is able to stay in front here, and look, a little fake to the inside by Nathan Tye, just trying to put him off in the braking zone. Battle going on behind. Shawman trying to go round the outside of Boris Lysen. That's not going to work. There's wheel-to-wheel contact, and Shawman's great race has been ruined into the final couple of corners. But Tunyon takes not only his first podium, but his first win of the season ahead of Nathan Tye and Petrovic in 3rd place. Lysen wins in the rookies, and it's Montero, Kaczynski, Fischer, Coronel, Mulder, and Fluxer moves up to be car 10, P10. But Tunyon and his team, T-Code by Antog, will be very, very pleased there, Zach. What a great race.
They are going to be over the moon with that. P1 and P3 for T-Code is going to be a lot. I'm sure I'm going to get a message from their social media manager in just a moment saying how good of a race that was for them. For Luna Flusha, by the way, that's her best result of the season. Her brothers have raced in Spanish F4 before. Lucas Flusha was the champion of this series a couple of years ago, so a new best result for Flusha, the Mercedes Junior. Fantastic drive there to P10, but Nacho Tunyon from the get-go, you have to say, looked very, very strong. You know, we talk about Ty's great start and everything, and you know what could have been if it was a straight 30-minute flat-out green flag race. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I mean, Nacho Tunyon kept his composure on not 1 but 2 safety car restarts to bring it home. 1 and 3 for T-Code. Nathan Tye matches his best result of the season as well in P2, but will be hungry for more, I'm sure, by the time we get to race 2 a bit later on today.
Yeah, I think Nathan will be a bit gutted that he hasn't won that one, but the point score here will really help him. That's only his 2nd podium after having a DNF as well in the final race at Portimao. It's a good way to bounce back, because especially if you have a bad time in the 3rd and final race of the weekend, that then lingers in your mind all the way until the next round of the championship. So he'll be really pleased to have gotten that out of the way. Petrovic, fantastic performance there, actually, to end up on the podium. Andre just appeared there in the end. He was sort of always 4th and 5th, and then when the battles erupted in front of him, he was just there to pick up the spoils. And in racing like this, though, Zach, that's what you've got to do, isn't it? You have to be there ready for the opportunities in case something happens in front, because 90% of the time, it will, because that's the sort of racing that we're in. It's great.
In the F4 Spanish Championship as well, it's one of those, you can be the quickest, you can be the most consistent, you can have your head switched on and make some great overtakes. Ultimately, it's your racecraft and your maturity, not necessarily being on the podium or winning every single race, but maximising the opportunities through each of them. Talk about Noah Montero for Griffin Course, starting out of position relative to what the 81 is particularly used to. Maybe if he was a bit more aggressive, could have gotten onto the podium. Okay, yeah, fair enough, maybe that is an opportunity, but he's bagged a very solid P5. When championship rivals like Casper Schurman obviously had the very poor final lap, where Rocco Coronel, who again, another driver who came through with Montero, when we're talking about winning a championship, it's not going flat out and being as aggressive as you possibly can. There is a time and a place for that, but in races like this, a lot of the time it is just a case of survival. Pick your way through the pack.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, you'll drive the race line, and by the end of the lap, you'll find yourself have picked up 3 places just by virtue of other people's mistakes. And that is what defines a champion. And as we tick closer and closer to the halfway point of the season, we're building this narrative of the championship, and drivers like Montero, drivers like Coronel, are 2 drivers that are firmly in that conversation.
Yeah, they definitely are. I think anybody that knows of the British Touring Car Championship will know the phrase doing a Turkington, where you can win a championship and just give consistent results without winning every race. But Tunyon, as you can see, very, very pleased with that. And what a great way to bounce onto the podium with your first win of the season. And I imagine this feeling will be very much carried over into the second race of the weekend. I was just trying to have a look to see if we've been given the grid for race 2 yet, but I imagine they'll be waiting for anything from this race to see whether that'll be affected. But okay, lucky you, I guess. I can't find it.
It is on the results app, so I have got it provisionally based on that. Nathan Tai will start P1, Nacho Tunyon will start P2, Elliot Kaczynski third from Petrovic P4. So the top 4 remains largely unchanged. The likes of, I did see a couple of big names that were slightly lower down than what they were used to. Alex Pinheiro starting P19, I think is going to be quite a big story as well. Of course, we'll confirm when we get there, but race 2 does look spicy. At the front, though, Tai and Tunyon did the job. 2 very quick laps, I think very close in pace as well, only about a 1/10 of a second between their first and their second fastest lap. So race 2 hopefully should be a rinse and repeat of what we saw in race 1, and Nathan Tai will be looking to get some redemption and maybe chase after that first victory.
That's a fantastic opportunity for a picture there with those guys, isn't it? I love that. Brilliant stuff. Nice for the cameraman to catch that. And it's all about these moments, isn't it? You know, it's not just a driver that's going through all of this. There's a massive team behind them as well, and so many people put these performances together. It's great to see them enjoy this start to the weekend that they thoroughly deserve. You know, to have 2 cars on the podium will mean the world to them, and I'm sure that they'll be hoping that this isn't the only time this weekend that happens. Petrovic gets his pictures taken as well, and well, you can see the wonderful colour of these cars. It's quite funny because they almost look black from distance, these machines, the T-code cars, but they have an air of what we call Pirates black around them. It's a colour that, I'm going to get really nerdy now, Zach, so you can fall asleep.
Here we go.
But the back in the 1990s, Honda used to have a colour on their cars called Pirates black, and it looked black in all British weather, and then as soon as the sun hit it, it was purple, and it was gorgeous, and it looks just like that. It's stunning. Tunyon takes the win then from Nathan Tai. Andrej Petrovic completes the podium. Boris Leisen finishes in 4th place, and then it's Montero and Fischer, the 2 teammates, in 5th and 6th. And it's Coronel, Mulder, Flusha, and Burnett after the penalties, actually. Flusha moves up into 9th position, so really good stuff from Flusha. Let's go to Alex, who's going to have an interview on standby for us, and he's going to get the reaction live.
So we are with race 1 winner, Nacho Tunyon. Nacho, you were taking the win away in Portugal, and you said, no way. How is this for a revenge?
I mean, obviously it was really tough what happened in Portimao, but man, I just want to say a huge thank you to all the guys from my team, Technicar, T-Code, Seri, Amtok, man, everyone, they've been amazing. Doesn't matter what you throw at us, we will keep rising again and again, so yeah, super grateful.
And on top of that, you have the 2 cars on the podium, which is great. It shows that the team is really doing a step forward, and that you can fight not just for wins, not just for podiums, you can fight for the championship.
Yeah, for sure. This is not a one race thing, you know. Especially this week, the start was a bit difficult, but that's made me even proud of the team. We've been working so hard all week, and finally we find a fucking amazing pace.
So what's in store for the next races, Nacho?
I mean, just try to do my best. Keep helping the team to evolve, and yeah, do my best.
Time to enjoy. Congratulations. More to come later.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, there we go. A fantastic reaction from our race winner there, Zach. And well, all they can do sometimes is just do their best, but he certainly did on that occasion. And you touched on the composure there in that race with the safety car restarts. I think that was a real key element to that one, wasn't it?
100%. You know, it's pressurizing, and in karting they do have safety car restarts as such. They do have full course yellows. It is something that Tunyon would have experienced before, but when you're leading for your first race win, and not even your first race win, but you know, your first lack of controversy win, I guess, if that's a phrase. Rocco Coronel, by the way, the gap in the championship comes down to just a single point between himself and Boris Lysen. Talking of composure, Coronel and Lysen have got something going into race 2 and race 3 tomorrow if they want to be heading into round number 4 leading the championship. That is how close and competitive it is in this championship.
Yeah, I don't think he took that picture knowing that the gesture was actually going to mean that's 1 point between us instead of P1, did he? But yeah, it's very, very tasty, very, very close. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure Zach will sort of echo my sentiments here, but when doing the research for the championship and getting prepared for this weekend, it's amazing to see how close it is between everybody in the standings. Sure, there are a few drivers that become favourites and that regularly score big points, but that's motorsport. That's going to happen. There's barely 1 or 2 points between almost all the drivers that have scored points throughout the field, and that's only going to continue as well as the championship carries on. Drivers improve, they get used to the car a bit more, the team get more used to setting it up for that particular driver. There's a lot of moving parts to this, more than just driver mentality, that really put together a strong performance. And we can see wonderful shot there. Actually, it's great to have the I believe it's a drone, I hope it is, unless it's one of those sort of cameras that runs along a wire that
Spider
I definitely don't
maybe,
know the name of. Yeah, that's it. Spider. See, Zach's a professional, everybody, and I'm not. This is where the difference comes in here, you see. But yeah, I love these shots that we get though, these aerial shots, because it just shows you a bit more of the event around things rather than just a trackside camera that doesn't show too much. It's great to show the amount of people involved as well, and the wonderful podium that we have here at Motorland Aragon. And in just a moment, the drivers will be making their way up to the podium to, I was going to say spray some champagne. The driver of that car won't be going up to the podium, that's for sure. But yeah, I imagine they'll not spray each other with champagne at this point, Zach. They've got to keep the overalls clean for race 2, right?
They do. Very rarely do drivers have a spare set of overalls. It's not like Formula 1 where you're changing race gear every single race. It's not the case at all. Even all the way up to Formula 2, that's still not the case. These drivers, you'll see them, and you'll often see in like karting and even in single seaters and stuff. They'll be in a completely different team, and they'll have the same set of overalls because they're still homologated for quite some time. It's a little bit of budget that you can save. For some of these drivers, that's maybe less of a concern, but hey, save where you can. And they'll celebrate, but they won't be too happy. There you can see them all getting themselves ready. Tunyon Tai and Petrovic, all with something to be happy about heading into race 2 later on today with that momentum. If you're wondering why Boris Lysen is there, he was the rookie winner as well, the top-placed rookie of the field. That's why the KCL Motorsport poll is up there as well, looking so strong. And talk about the rookies, I mean, it's a rookie P1 and P2 in the championship with Coronel and Boris Lysen, who goes into race 2, like we've just touched on, just 1 point off in the championship battle.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Really, really close stuff all the way throughout. So I'm excited to see just how that shapes out. They're all going to be keeping an eye on each other's points throughout the season. And I reckon that it's going to be interesting for us to keep an eye on and try and do the maths. That's the sure thing. Zach and I had a little bit of a connection over the fact that we are both massive spreadsheet nerds before the weekend got underway. So I'll be updating mine in just a moment. Usually in just to sort of break the fourth wall slightly, but usually in truck racing, when we cross the line, as I'm reading the results out, I'm filling my spreadsheet in with my right hand. But so many cars and drivers and classes and things here to do. It's a lot harder to do, so that's going to come afterwards, I'm safe to say. They're the teams, they're all happy as well, aren't they, Zach? There's a great vibe down there in the pit lane at the moment.
Yeah, indeed so. There you can see Zoe Florescu, the Romanian driver, who I didn't think started that race. Oh no, she finished P14. I do apologise in that race for Technicar. And again, with T-Code and Technicar, that partnership, they're all down there, they're all celebrating, and really good to see that Florescu is getting stuck in. She herself is a brilliant driver. She was one of the few drivers actually to take the step into shifter cut racing, and in doing so was qualified for the finals of the World Championship. Zoe Florescu hasn't quite got the results so far this season, but she's looking to chip away at it. And that team morale clearly is there at Technicar car a T-code.
Absolutely is. Now it's time to hand to Alex Garcia, who is on the podium waiting for us. Alex, how is it down there? What's the vibe like?
As you can imagine, guys, the vibe is that of absolute elation in the technical T-code by Amtok team, because in Portimao they lost that 1-2 for a safety car infringement. If they've bounced back with that 1-3 today, which to them will mean the world. We knew that they were going to be quick, but there's nothing like actually getting that result. So for them, this is the best thing they could have done today.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, it looked like it was a difficult race for some of the drivers in the middle of the pack. It seems like that's always the case, though, in Formula 4 racing. It's hard to stand out, isn't it, when you're not in that lead group and you want to get to it later on in the race.
Exactly, especially with so many safety car periods at the end of the day. It just makes those races in the midfield just extra difficult, because you have no time to fight, and any moment that you get, you just need to make it happen.
Absolutely, and I believe now it is time for our podium. The drivers now making their way up. Petrovic making his way up for third position. They'll be pleased with that. Like I say, two T-code cars. I'm going to do that more this season, Zach. 2 T-code cars on the podium in this race. Second position going to Nathan Tai overall for DriveX. He'll be hoping for that first win of the season later on today. But what about our race winner, Nacho Tunion, taking his first podium and first win of the season? And you can see that it means a lot to him, Zach. He'll be over the moon.
He will be. Again, that redemption for having the win stripped away in Portimao, to bounce back and to prove that it wasn't a fluke, to prove that you can still do it. Such a good race there, and he'll be over the moon. He'll be looking to do exactly the same thing later on this afternoon. Nathan Tai, though, Petrovic, they'll all know that the pace is there, the opportunity is there, and they'll all be hungry to chase the victory, because here at Aragon, opportunities are very much in abundance.
They absolutely are. I believe we're now going to get the Spanish national anthem for our race-winning driver, at which point we will go quiet, but the cars on track haven't, which is always the interesting part of sharing a race meeting with other series. I certainly can't hear an anthem, so I am just going to keep speaking, so apologies if I do speak over it, but based on the other cars on the circuit, we definitely can't hear it at the moment. Some fantastic sounding bits of kit out there on the track. And there is a round of applause for our top three from the teams and everybody down there in the pit lane. Certainly looks like the wind has picked up a little bit there at Aragon, and that might, I was going to say, I mean, I was hopefully saying it's going to blow some weather through, but that might not be the case actually, Zach. It looks like it's a very, very hot day, and it's going to stay that way.
It's going to blow in more blue skies.
It's
just going to be more of the same. Very, very Toy Story-esque, the sky there at Aragon. The wind, from what I can see from the live timing, 15 kilometers per hour. So definitely is picking up, and they'll be feeling that. These open-wheel single-seaters, very sensitive to that wind. Hopefully, it will be more of the same a bit later on, where maybe even a headwind down into the hairpin to make that slipstream even more powerful. Now that would be class. Even a side wind through some of the technical combined G braking zones around the circuit would add an extra challenge. But most importantly, if there's a headwind into the hairpin, we're going to have some good racing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, we will do. And it is, you're absolutely right. It's interesting how the weather conditions can affect them so much. These cars really don't weigh a lot. They're not massively powerful machines, so yeah, they really do have to push through any headwind that they get. And obviously a tailwind as well is it's almost like a nightmare for drivers, isn't it? Heading into a braking zone with a tailwind is not what you want on your radar. As our race winner, Nacho Tunion gets his trophy for the first win of the weekend here at Motorland Aragon in the F4 Spanish Championship. And now they will have their pictures taken on the top step together. Everybody will head up. And there you go, 2 T-code cars on the podium again. Fantastic achievement for them. And it's, again, I think the lovely story is that it's Tunion's first podium of the season. We really do speak to a lot of drivers that they always feel like they're always the bridesmaid, as we say, Zach. You know, they could get a load of podiums, thirds, seconds, but never get that win. Tunion straight onto the podium, and well, let's hope he does have some spare overalls.
Yeah, well, we were completely wrong, weren't we? And I think that's just how much it means to the T-Code guys. Luna Flushy getting involved there. Oh no, that I would not want to be racing in that later on. Either he's got a very good laundrette nearby, or he's got a spare set of race overalls. But I think, you know, it's I say it's unfortunate it's happened at race 1. Because unfortunately it's happened at race 1 because it does mean they get to do all these massive celebrations. It does make their life a little bit logistically awkward in terms of their race suits. But overall a fantastic first race of the weekend, and they can be very, very pleased. It all started though from the initial start of the race.
Yeah, it was a fantastic launch, wasn't it, on the first start for Nathan Tye. It looked like from there, if he just kept that up, he was going to be absolutely gone and nobody could touch him. There was an incident, of course, in the midfield. Radek involved in that with Loet. Both of them, thankfully, absolutely fine. Pedersen also involved in that incident. Nathan Tye then led us away from the safety car restart with Tunyon right behind. Tunyon eventually getting through, and then it was down to Nathan Tye and his teammate to have a scrap. There was another incident in the background that brought us to our second safety car of the weekend. And we're, of course, going to be back a little bit later on for the second race of the weekend. I've been Chaz Draycott with Zach Sweeney, and we look forward to catching you a little bit later on this afternoon for the F4 Spanish Championship.
I still be here standing. Never took a loss, and it ain't something that I'm planning. I dare you to say something. My focus is A1. Every dog.